All right, welcome back to the PSA Sunday Sit-Down, episode number 9 with my friend Pete Allen. Pete, thank you so much for joining us today. Excited to dig into all things robotics, golf, baseball, everything.
Josh, that sounds fun. Let's do it. And thanks
Awesome.
for and thanks for having me, by the way.
Yeah, anytime. I mean, as you know, I think when I asked if you wanted to be on this, there'll be dozens of people here watching this.
Oh yeah, at least.
I posted one on Sunday, and it's already got like 55 views, so we're flying up the charts. Watch out, Joe Rogan.
Well, hopefully I can help the followers.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Yeah, I'm just farming now. I'm like, okay, who do I know who's got a great following? Has been in the industry a while, and if they post a clip, a lot of people will watch. Oh, Pete, yeah.
Yeah, right.
See if Pete wants to be on it. So that's my whole strategy.
It's going viral for you. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Cool. Well, let's get into, obviously we know each other because of Jacoby. Get into a little bit of your current role with, Jacoby and really your career in robotics.
Yes.
Before we get into the fun stuff. Right?
Yeah. So I like to say I've had a lot of fun in robotics. I've been doing it for about 7 years now. I started at Berkshire Grey in the year of the pandemic. So it's a time when Berkshire Grey was kind of new to the market, lighting it up with robotic picking, with robotic sortation. I spent about 4 years there running a business unit and helping them with partnership ecosystem build out. I then went into the cool world of humanoid robotics. Have you heard about this? It's like It's exciting, but it doesn't quite work yet. Don't tell anybody. So I worked with Agility Robotics for about a year plus, helping them with partnership ecosystem. And then about a year ago, I started my own consulting firm, and I worked with Jacoby Robotics. I was a board member or board advisor to them for about 2 years. And then now I'm fractional chief commercial officer. Then I also work with Vecna Robotics, helping them with partnership ecosystems. So that's what I'm doing these days. But I love robots. I love warehouses and how those converge. And I love talking about where kind of use cases really apply and can deliver real value for clients.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, I think what I hear too, obviously, is you've been in sales roles, you've been in partnership roles, you've run companies, now at this point in your career, starting your own consulting for a firm and, working, fractionally with other companies. Is that what really gets you most excited? Is it the partnership side? And what about the partnership side is it that gets you, get you fired up?
I think I get excited about a couple things. I get excited about novel technologies that are now solving some of the hardest robotic automation challenges in the industry, right? So when I think of Jacoby and I think of what Vecna's doing, they're solving problems that people have been trying to solve for many, many years. I think in Jacoby's case, it's been called the Holy Grail, which is unsequenced mixed case palletizing. So that gets me excited about like, hey, we've got a new product, a new solution solving a really hard problem. People don't know about it. We got to get the word out there, right? And a lot of that getting the word out there for me is the benefit of the partnership ecosystem, right? In the case of a Jacoby, it's strongly with system integrators and robotic integrators, like getting that word out there, like, hey, this exists. And here's the impact of not having to worry about sequenced cases coming out of an ASRS. You can make the ASRS smaller. You can make the design cheaper. You can make the ROI better. And boy, systems integrators are looking for that. Robotic integrators are looking for any way to get more sticky with their clients, right? And having solutions that they can present. And I think it's the same for Vecna in that systems integrators have looked at solving the case picking problem, right? If you think of warehouses today, majority of case picking is done in the aisle level. And it's almost, well, not almost ever, but it's not highly automated, right? But if I think about how to solve it, I can go high-end, 100 million plus, greenfield solutions, Symbotic, Witron, Vandalander, like 1% of the industry is buying those things, right? Or I can go middle of the road, which is where most of this business is, in the $10 to $50 million range, shrink the ASRS, put a Jacoby at the end, and I've got a much better solution. Or I can say, you know what? my customer is risk averse for automation. They don't have infrastructure to play with, right? They're densely packed, but they want to automate. So a Vecna's is what I call the elegant entry level, low cost solution that takes AMRs into the building and optimizes the movement of AMRs and people to maximize UPH. So kind of three options people can look for. And those are the things that get me excited and getting that word out to the partnership ecosystem so they have options to bring to their customers.
Yeah, that's great. And really too, what I'm sort of curious about is what was the process like for a Jacoby or a Vecna in bringing you on board, right? Because there's a lot of things that, there's a lot of benefits, right? Obviously you're well connected, things like that, but you can't go out and just start selling something that doesn't work, right? So you really have to vet Vecna and Jacoby, because your reputation's on the line, right? To use baseball terms, you don't want to get called into the bullpen and give up a grand slam in a tie game, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You want to go work for companies that you can leverage your network, go in, like you said, solve those problems and have it actually work. And what I'm hearing, at least on my side, is, obviously everybody's skeptical about humanoids. And I mean, people were skeptical about mixed SKU for a long time.
They still are.
Mixed SKU for 4 or 5 years, right? And I know it's come a long way, but, somebody comes in and they're like, oh, I can do mixed SKU palletizing. You're like, okay, are you at a trade show, behind the wall, throwing the right case at the right time?
Exactly.
Or, what was it about Vecna and Jacoby that, got you excited and prove to you that this will work and you can actually go out and sell it to your network?
So Jacoby's a cool story. So one of the co-founders literally reached out to me on LinkedIn and was like, "Hey, can we talk?" And I'm looking him up and I'm like, "Who is this guy?" Like he comes from University of California, Berkeley. I'm like, "Okay, cool, that's interesting. PhD, interesting, but Jacoby, I've never heard of these guys, right?" So I end up having a call with him and he's describing what they do. And I'm like, wait a minute. Are you telling me you can do mixed case palletizing without the giant ASRS? He goes, yes. And I went, I've heard that called the Holy Grail because no one's been able to do it. Like, why should I believe you? And we started talking and we hit it off. And like, I'm not an engineer, but I know enough to be dangerous, right? And I've been around this space a bit, and I started asking the right type of questions, and he had all the right answers. And so, like I said, I joined them as a board advisor, and I helped them kind of like an hour a month kind of thing. And we talk about all things go-to-market strategy. And the more I talked to them, the more I learned, like, this product really does work. And what they were struggling with was getting partners and getting customers to adopt the product. Because again, like you said, it's novel, it's new. People are like, nah, no one can do that. Why should I believe these couple of guys from University of California, Berkeley, right? I mean, I know they're smart and they did a robotics thing. Okay. But then we started deploying it. And, I think you saw it at Modex, right? We signed up with people like Fortna and Honeywell and Peak Automation, right? These partners vetted us. Like they had their senior engineers seriously vet the capabilities of being able to handle chaos of random sequence and build highly dense, stable pallets, because that's the key, right? These pallets come out of Jacoby with 70 to 90% density compared to people at 60 to 70%. And I've even heard from other integrators that people who are trying to compete with us, who claim they can do what Jacoby can do, are getting like 50 to 60% density. So I think Jacoby's just, it's an interesting story. The idea, again, that it's a novel thing that hadn't been done got me excited. And now seeing it actually work is awesome. Now, Vecna's a less exciting story. My old boss from Agility became the chief commercial officer, and he said, hey, can you come over here and help us? Because we need help with partners, and a lot of partners out there. Can you come help? And I'm like, sure, I'll come help you.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I like that Jacoby story. I want to lean into that a little bit because, mixed SKU in general, when I think mixed SKU, I think large food and bev companies, Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies. And, the types of companies that have relationships with those folks are typically larger integrators, right? And larger integrators, they're always balancing the, being on the forefront of technology, but also not, deploying systems that don't work, right? So there's that balance of being aggressive and conservative. So if you're dealing with, I don't know, let's call it, one of the biggest systems integrators in the world, and you're also dealing with one of the biggest food and beverage companies in the world, like you've got one shot, but it's a really, really great opportunity, right? And how do you, as a, go-to-market consultant, for lack of a better term, how do you take that, responsibility and then coach a founder to have the stones to go out and deploy a system with, two huge companies, right? Is that a loaded question?
No, not a loaded question at all. But what I would say to that is that what you find a lot in the robotics startup is the founders are engineers, right? So they're bold already. They've started a company, like they've built an interesting new product that hasn't been seen before. They're bullish to get in front of that big, large integrator, that big, large customer. And what I had to coach them on is like, what's the approach, right? What's the strategy? And the strategy for me has always been crawl, walk, run. Like, let's go to that big customer and say, look, we're going to de-risk this whole conversation. We're going to put one in, right? We know you have the potential for hundreds of cells, but there's no way in hell you're going to buy 100 cells to begin with. So let's put one in. Let's prove that we can hit rate for UPH that you need. Let's prove that we can hit the density that we're talking about with stable pallets. And then if it works, now we're going to start to scale. Right now, we're going to fill up that one building, and then we're going to go replicate this at 10 of your other buildings, right, over time. Most integrators and most companies I have found love that approach. Like they'll come right out and say, hey, that's exactly how we think about it, right? So I think it's getting founders to understand that don't know go-to-market well, right? They know engineering, that, hey, what's the right go-to-market strategy? And the other thing I would say is, it's also not just those big entities to start with, right? There's a lot of we see a lot of e-commerce and 3PL where, hey, they've got to be shipping to carriers and they have to build mixed case pallets to UPS and FedEx. So there's a lot of opportunities out there for this type of solution.
And it's even higher stakes for them, right? I mean, because, the big Fortune 100s, they can afford to mess around with one line in one of their 50 locations, right? But if you're dealing with a 3PL or a smaller e-commerce company, if you mess up one day,
yeah,
it's a really big deal, and you can't be down for a week, right? That just doesn't exist in today's order it at 8 a.m. and get it from Amazon between 2 and 4 p.m. right?
And that's why we have partners like PSA, right? So that we can go out and know that you're going to support them, and if something goes wrong, you'll be their first line of defense.
Exactly. I like that. Yeah. And, the one thing too that I like that you said is, de-risking right away, right? Because we've all been in these conversations, and I've been doing this, I don't know, 5 or 6 years at this point. I've been in plenty of rooms when we're talking about palletization, and, you walk the floor, and there's always that one line that's kind of like the redheaded stepchild, right? And that's, I don't know, in my experience, it's either been, we've got 8 lines that are totally simple, and we've got this 9th line that needs, a bottom tray, slip sheets between every layer. It's an open case, and, we've got a window in there, and we need a top cap and corner boards and all that, and we're not going to touch that. But some of those companies lead with, hey, if you can solve that line, we'll give you the other 8.
Right.
Right. So what's it been like for you in your conversations early on? Is it, hey, if you can solve the mixed SKU, or I don't know, mixed, that's a bad example, right? Because all you're doing is mixed SKU, but now you're giving the partners sort of that armor to go in there and say, oh yeah, line 9, no problem. We could come in, we can handle mixed SKU. Versus before, it's like, let me reach out to these 6 or 7 different vendors. We'll see their different sort of, layouts and see what works best.
Yeah, I think what we have found is that we try to get in front of the customer and understand the use case that they have, right? To your point of, they give you the really hard one, right? And say, solve this one. I think what we have found is that being honest with them about our capabilities is the best method. So if we can't solve it, we're better off telling them that at the time. Because if you're giving me line number 9 and I can't solve it, really, I'm not. One of the things I counsel my clients on is like, look, be honest. Like, don't overcommit. Because if you overcommit and you say, I'm going to do line number 9, which is the hardest, and you fail, you're never getting another crack at it, and that integrator is going to hate you, right? And you get a cat in the background. You don't get that in every
There you go.
podcast. Like, that just doesn't always
Yeah,
happen.
no, you don't.
Um, but yeah, no, I think it's a lot about being honest with the client. Like, hey, what are your expectations? What's your throughput needs? What's your density needs? What weird things do you have happening in this use case? And can we solve it? If the answer is yes, plow on, let's go, write a contract, let's do it. If the answer is maybe or I don't know, tell them that. Be honest. Don't overcommit with your clients. Undercommit and
Oh, yeah,
overdeliver is the way to go.
for sure. And that might be sometimes hard for a founder to hear, right? I've been around the startup life, and it's, even just being on a call, right, where you're in a discovery call that's supposed to be 15 minutes, and all of a sudden you've got somebody on the phone for an hour, and no matter how many times you try to tell them nicely that, you're not their ICP, they just keep going, and then they hear, one thing that, oh, maybe that does apply, and then they, dig into that, right? It's so do you sort of counsel your founder clients to, find out quick whether or not this company's in your ICP,
Yes.
and move on?
Absolutely. And I have the luxury and benefit of, like, experience, right? I've done this a long time. When I was younger, I would be like, oh, Mr. Founder, okay, I'll do that. I'll help you. I'll push it harder. Now I'm like, I don't care. Like, if it's not a fit, it's not a fit. And I'm going to tell you it's not a fit.
Yeah. Yep. I like it. Well, before we get into Pete outside of the world of robotics, the one thing too that I think about just in this conversation so far is we've talked about AMRs, humanoids, and mixed SKU. And all three of those things have been the key thing at each of the last, maybe 3, whether it's Modex, ProMat, Automate, right? 3 years ago, it was mixed SKU. The year before, 2 years ago, it was, AMRs. This year there were cobots everywhere. Is it, do you find yourself sort of in the crosshairs of all the hot topics of the applications that people bring to shows, that are the hot topics right away?
I mean, I think so to some degree. I mean, I stay close to the industry. Like, I follow a lot of the major AMR players pretty closely. I've got good friends at Locus and some of the other companies out there. I know a lot about the humanoid space. I know all the players. I know how, like, today, reality in that space, it is proof of concepts, and very few of those companies have even done a proof of concept in the real world, right? It is so early days. Baseball analogy. Somebody asked me the other day, where is the humanoid space in terms of a baseball game? And I said, first half of the first inning.
The equivalent of throwing wiffle balls to my 4-year-old out there,
Yeah.
out in the back, maybe.
Yeah.
He hasn't played a real game yet.
There might be one out in the first inning.
Yeah.
That's how early it
that's
is. I would tell you that there's, like, they'll be in warehouses. They're coming. They're 3 to 5 years away from being seriously ready to scale. There are a lot of reasons why, and we don't have time to go into all the reasons why, but it's coming.
I've got to give you credit. You are one of the first people that I've talked to that it seems like you're sort of straight down the middle on humanoids, right? And you could be honest about them. It's
100%.
Not, there's the people out there who are like, these are never going to work. I'm never going to have a humanoid. I'm not going to pay somebody to do my laundry, blah, 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 which, that's a whole different humanoid. But then you've got the other people who are like, humanoid this, humanoid that. Like you seem like you're a realist when it comes to humanoids. Do you also think that's rare in our industry today?
Maybe. But here's what I'll tell you. We're seeing new humanoids come out every other day, right? And we're going to see form factors change. We're going to see an argument versus wheels and legs, which is already going on. There's an argument of hands like ours versus changeable end effectors or tools. I think you're going to see that evolve. I think you're going to see robots that are specified for specific things in the humanoid world. And the reason I think they're coming is because the mobility and manipulation is key, right? I think if you can have a mobile robot that can manipulate things, oh my goodness, that changes the dynamics of that aisle case pick as an example. It changes dynamics of being able to move a robot from doing case picking to tote handling from an AMR to induction into an ASRS. Like those are all complementary things it can do with other robotics once it's capable of doing it, and once the safety regulations have been, completed. Right? That hasn't been done yet, and today these robots are trained on single uses alone. They're not multitasking robots, but they will be. It's coming.
Cool. Well, we'll have you back on when we start to see these, and I'm sure there'll be a day where I'm walking a plant floor and I see humanoids out there, right? And it sounds like that'll be, in the next 3 to 5 years, maybe sooner, right?
Probably not sooner is my guess. And even some of here's a side tip for the listeners, right? If you want to know about humanoids, follow Agility Robotics and Boston Dynamics and listen to their words. They tell you the truth. If you're following Elon Musk and Brett Alcock from Figure AI, you're hearing the marketing side. You're hearing the pomp and circumstances. Now they've raised almost $1 billion or whatever dollars. Like kudos to them for raising that money, but there's a lot of BS going on out there.
Yeah. And that's, if you ever want some good LinkedIn engagement, just, post something about humanoids, right? Just in one sentence. Humanoids suck, right? And see what happens to your LinkedIn mentions.
Exactly. Exactly.
Cool. Well, let's start to get in a little bit to who Pete is outside of robotics, right? I mean, you've been in the industry for 7 years. Whether it's what you were doing before then, what you thought you were going to be doing, right? Because none of us grew up and said we wanted to be in robotics, right? Let's start there. What did you, what did second grade, Pete want to be?
Probably a basketball player or a baseball player for sure. I played throughout high school, both sports, ended up playing a little bit of basketball in college. Actually stopped playing basketball like 3 years ago. So finally got to the age where my legs couldn't do it anymore. But yeah, no, I would have loved to have been anything in sports. And probably by the time I got to high school, I was going to be a college basketball coach. That's where my heart and dreams were. And I diverted at some point because I needed money. In high school and college basketball coaches don't make a lot of money until they get way up the stratosphere. And I was like, nah, I want to buy things.
Yeah. I'm starting to sense a theme here, right? Because, we've talked about this where I wanted to work in sports as well, right? I was a broadcaster for a while, but I mean, I don't know, at my peak, maybe I was making, $150 a game, right? Whatever.
Right.
And there comes a time where you're like, okay, it's cool. I'm in AAA, but how long can I do this? Right. But I like your basketball analogy too, because that was one of the things that I liked. So, I'm still waiting on my growth spurt. I'm like 5'7", 5'8", but and I was always tall until I got into high school, right? So I learned how to be a big when I was smaller, right? And then you get to high school, and all of a sudden you can't be a 5'8", power forward.
No,
right? You can't run the 4 or the 5 when you're 5'8". You can't be backing down.
No, you're not doing that.
And I got into, and I realized like, okay, obviously I'm not going to be, a great basketball player, right? Unless I start learning how to shoot and dribble, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, it might be cool to be a coach. So I was like a manager, right? And I was going to do that in college and thought briefly, like I was going to go to Clemson. This when Oliver Purnell was there. And I was like, I'm going to go be a manager for Clemson and work my way up and like be in the video department and, try to be one of those guys who didn't play, but ended up coaching. But, that's cool. I didn't realize that you wanted to be a basketball coach.
Yep.
I'll give you one quick note about my coaching career. So I started coaching the 6th grade team for our school district when I was in high school, and I'm not proud to say this, but I did get a technical foul coaching a 6th grade basketball game because I was standing on the sideline going like this. I'm like, the guy's walking all over the court, and it was against the other team. So our school district had 2 teams in the league, and it's just like this church, church bitty league. And the other coach was my math teacher, and we agreed that we weren't going to press each other because you can only press in the first 2 minutes, and nobody could dribble in 6 minutes. Right. I shouldn't say that. There were some good ones, but it's like, okay, she comes out in a press, in, the first half. So then I get mad. I call timeout. I drop a press of our own. And then, then all of a sudden it's like we're, coaching game 7 of the NBA finals
Right.
here. And yeah, got a couple of phone calls after the game. I told one kid that if he didn't pass the ball, he would never play basketball for Pittston area again. Got a phone call from his parents on that one. So yeah,
that might have been a little over the line.
Yeah, and I'm so competitive, right? I think that's how I ended up in sales, right? A lot of us sports guys end up in sales for that reason. And it was just one of those things where I was like, and I was, I don't know, 16, 17 at the time. And what do you see on TV when, I was watching Jim Boeheim, right? And Boeheim, there wasn't a good referee in the Big East.
Right,
He's always
exactly.
complaining. And then you're watching the guys. Everybody just seems like they're yelling at the refs, which, you can't do that in when you're coaching sixth grade basketball. Not in
youth sports. No, it's frowned upon.
Yeah, and now that I've got 2 kids of my own who will, probably play sports, I think I'm going to be, part of me wants to be the dad who, is out in center field, because he can't listen to the other parents complain and all that. But if I do coach, I know for sure I'm not going to be like that, the Bob Knight version of myself. That I was when I was
You're going to tone it down. All right, you've matured. Yeah. We'll give you credit.
Oh yeah, yeah. And the guy who gave me a technical, he played softball with my dad. I knew him my whole life.
Oh, funny.
And he yelled, yeah. So. But yeah, between that and getting thrown out of a church league softball game, those are you could tell I was a little bit of a hothead back when I was in high school.
Well, it's glad to see you mellowed out a little bit.
Oh yeah. But I will. There's still that. That's why I can't play basketball anymore, right? There's the 5 a.m. games at the Y that I would love to play, but it's just like, how do you play? And I'm not one of those guys who can just, sit back in a zone. I'm running the whole time, and flying around the court or whatever. And then, then you got to go to work. I mean, I can't do that. But you said you just stopped playing 3 years ago?
I did. My knees finally gave out. I've had too many knee surgeries, and they just don't work anymore.
Did you run with the same group all those years?
No. I would always find places to run wherever I lived, right? If you're a basketball junkie and you love it that much, you'll find places to play.
Oh, yeah. I think I literally just saw this a couple days ago. Adam Sandler called the police in, I think it was Montauk. Or
I heard
maybe it was the Vineyard.
I heard the same
just
story.
To see where the game was.
I think it was the Vineyard. I think it was down the Cape somewhere, the Vineyard. Yep.
Yeah, so good for him. He's got to get on the ferry to go play some hoops, right?
Well, I live in New Hampshire in a place called Lake Winnipesaukee, and he was just here 2 or 3 weeks ago. Funny thing, I don't know if you know this. Adam Sandler grew up in New Hampshire.
I did not know that.
Yep. Grew up in Manchester, New Hampshire, and I think Grown Ups was filmed, or at least parts of it were filmed, on Lake Winnipesaukee.
Oh, that makes sense. That's one of those movies that's on TBS. It's a rainy day, and
yeah.
You're like, oh, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And I think YouTube has kind of killed those movies a little bit, right? Because you just sit on your phone now on the couch and you don't pay attention. But before there were always those reliable movies that were always on. Whether it be like The Patriot or Grown Ups or
right.
I don't know. Remember the Titans was always on, right? All those.
Yeah.
But it's funny to see how the phones have taken that. So. All right, so we got basketball, and I didn't know that about you until today. I know you're a golfer, and I know you're a baseball guy, and you're a New Hampshire guy. So I would assume a Sox fan.
Absolutely.
What's your favorite Sox memory?
Probably breaking the curse. I mean, that's the obvious one, right? 86 years, growing up here my whole life, never winning, coming close. The Mets in 86 series, we should have won that. They'd already basically announced Bruce Hurst as the MVP for the series, and they end up Buckner, the ball goes through his legs. A couple of innings later, we lose the game, big bummer. But yeah, when the Sox broke the curse, that was pretty cool. And then maybe the worst moment was the trading of Mookie Betts, but look, we don't have to go down that road.
Yeah, I don't think we need to go. But that reminds me, I mean, obviously that was for me too. And I grew up a Red Sox fan my whole life. My dad was a Red Sox fan, even though he's from New York. He's from Syracuse, not the city, but he was a Red Sox fan because my uncle was a Yankee fan. So he wanted to be the opposite.
Exactly.
That's how I became a Red Sox fan.
Nice.
But I'll remember in 03, and I think I told you this, when Boone hit the walk-off, I didn't go to school for like a week because most of our lunch table, they were Yankee fans because I grew up in Scranton. 2 hours outside the city. Everybody, and they had the AAA team. I think at the time it was still the Red Barons who were the Phillies, but still, there's you're either a Phillies fan or you're a Yankee fan, right? There weren't many Red Sox fans, but yeah, when that happened, I was so upset. Didn't go to school for a week. Then the next year, devastated because they got rid of Nomar.
It worked.
And, obviously we all got over that,
Yeah,
right? But,
exactly.
And Grady Little, right? It's like, okay, you get so close, you get rid of Grady Little and you get rid of Nomar. I thought that was, 12-year-old me was like, what are we doing?
Well, Grady Little made the fatal mistake of leaving Pedro in on that extra inning that ended up costing them the game. Yeah. So he deserved to go for that one.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get you there. And then, years later, it's kind of funny. I was, when I was working with the Yankees in Scranton, I used to deliver box scores down to the clubhouse after the game. And I didn't know this at the time, but the Clippers were in town. So I'm going to deliver the box scores, and I'm like, oh, that guy was super nice. And I go up to look. I'm like, oh, who's the manager of the Clippers? It was Bucky Dent. And I'm like, oh, no way. It's like, oh, gosh, they say never meet your heroes. I mean, that would have been the opposite of a hero.
Right.
You hear like all these, and I would have went down there with such a bad attitude, but I was like, oh, he's actually a pretty nice guy.
Funny.
So it's kind of funny, but yeah. So you're a Celtics guy too, then?
Absolutely. Die hard.
Nice. So how do you feel about the LeBron trade before we let you go?
Oh, you mean the Jaylen Brown trade and the LeBron going to Philly to join him?
Yeah.
I don't love it.
I shouldn't say trade. I guess LeBron signing in Philly. Sorry.
Yeah.
Trade,
I saw that coming. Like, he's chasing a ring. I get it. Like, he wants one more crack at the apple. I don't blame him. He's 41. He's done his thing. I don't call him the GOAT. I think there's a bunch of guys better than him in the NBA history, but I don't blame him for chasing a ring, but I think it's going to be interesting to see how he works on that team with Jaylen Brown, Maxey, Edgecombe, and Embiid, and for me, it'll come down to Embiid. If Embiid plays, they'll have a legit chance if they can be cohesive. If they can't be cohesive, though, that's going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah, it could either be really great or really bad, right? There's probably not going to be an in between.
Correct. Correct.
And I guess overall, what do you think there from I think that some may say that hurts his legacy, right? Because I think the storybook ending would have been, he obviously goes back to Cleveland, right? And he finishes, maybe plays 2 years there. But, then there's, I was listening to another podcast, a Friday podcast. I don't know if you've ever heard of that one. It's a golf one, but they talk a lot about, basketball. And they mentioned how, Jordan went and obviously played for the Wizards at the end there. Who cares, right? But it's like, obviously everybody remembers him as a Bull. But now, like, when I think about it, to me, like, LeBron playing for Cleveland, that felt like an eternity ago.
Oh, yeah.
I remember him, basically everywhere but Cleveland, Cleveland, Miami. And, so do you think that's just a product of today's game where he's going to go play for the Sixers? Or, do you think it's just more of a personal thing?
I think it's a product of today's game, and I think LeBron has always chased the ring, right? He thought, hey, when he left Cleveland, he went to Miami, it was all about chasing the ring, right? And he goes to L.A., it was chasing the ring, and maybe a little lifestyle thing there too, right? Going to the West Coast, L.A., Hollywood, and now I read something the other day. He came out and said he was legitimately going to retire. And then he's like, you know what? I still got to fight for one more year. And now, to me, it was clear, like, he's going to go to the team that gives him his best chance. Cleveland didn't give him the best chance, right? Miami didn't give him the best chance. There's no way Golden State gave him the best chance. I'll tell you this. If Celtics hadn't traded Jaylen Brown and it was still Jaylen Brown and Tatum in Boston, LeBron would have gone there.
Then what would he have done? Would you have been excited about that? Or
yes.
Would you have been, yeah.
Yes, I would have. Because it would have given the Celtics a better chance to win. I mean, LeBron can still play. He's not dominant, right? But he can still play.
Yeah. Well, he's going to go to Philly. He'll play once a week, right? And, then he'll turn it on in May, and he'll play, May, June, July. They'll either win or lose in the finals, and, that'll be it, right? And if it doesn't work out, he'll probably just request a trade or whatever and go.
I don't think he'll do that. Now he'll
right off into the sunset.
He'll finish the season. Whatever happens, and he'll retire.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Pete. This was fun. Really cool to hear all about Vecna, Jacoby, your career here in robotics, and, excited to continue working with you all here on some mixed SKU opportunities. And we'll have you back on here when LeBron retires or you finally break that course record, because that is an unwritten rule, right? All the sales guys in our industry, you play golf Friday afternoons, right?
Well,
It's an unwritten rule.
I try to.
Yeah.
Josh, thanks for having me on. It was great. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Sure thing. Hey, Pete, one quick thing before we let you go. Where can people find you? LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. Search me, Pete Allen. You'll find me on LinkedIn. It's probably the easiest and best place.
I like it. The Kurt Signetti answer. Google me.
Yeah, right.
You win.
LinkedIn me.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Pete.
All right.
We'll talk to you next time.
See you, Josh. Thanks.